You may think that sports cars are only really made by car companies that specialize in making them. That is not true. Sports cars can also be made by car companies that produce the cars you see on the streets every day. Today, we'll be talking about sports cars made by such car companies. This is Autophil, and I hope you enjoyed this video. Starting off this video, we have the Ford Probe. This was a two-door coupe with pop-up headlights sold across 2 generations. The Probe was produced for a total of 9 years, which isn't that long, but it's long enough for a sports coupe produced during the 90s, like this one. I always thought that the Probe's design was inspired by that of Japanese sports car designs from the 80s and 90s, and that makes the Probe really cool looking. Then again, this sports coupe was developed using components from the Mazda RX-7 and being based on the MX-6 coupe, so I guess the design similarities do make sense. When it comes to the engines, the first generation had a choice between 3, the most powerful being the 2.2 litre Mazda F2T inline 4, which produced 145 horsepower. The second generation, on the other hand, had a choice between 2, the most powerful being the 2.5 litre Mazda KLDE V6 that produced 164 horsepower. While both power outputs aren't the greatest nowadays, both generations of the Probe were still zesty and exciting cars, with the second generation having a 0 to 60 time of 7 seconds. With all that said, I think I've talked enough about the Ford Probe. To summarize, the Probe is an exciting car that is also rather obscure. Our next car is the Peugeot RCZ. This was another coupe, this time sold by Peugeot, out of all companies. Sold between 2009 and 2015, the RCZ was based on the first generation 308 hatchback, sharing the front end with it. That may seem to tell that Peugeot's coupe isn't necessarily that exciting of a car, but you'll see when we get to the engines. The RCZ had various engines during its 6-year-long lifetime, with some of them coming and going. Out of all of its engines, the most powerful has to be the 1.6 litre THP 270 turbocharged inline 4, producing 266 horsepower, which is actually quite a lot for such a small engine. Then again, this isn't even that small of an engine anyway. This engine allowed the RCZ to achieve a top speed of 155 miles per hour, which is also not that bad. With all that said, the RCZ isn't necessarily a bad car, and might just be as exciting as a traditional coupe. The third car for today is the Honda NSX. This was a sports coupe produced by Honda throughout 2 different time periods, as the second generation was released years after the first. The first generation was produced from 1990 to 2005, with 2 body style options, a 2-door coupe or a 2-door targa top coupe. It had a choice between 2 different engines, with the most powerful being the 3.2 litre Honda C32B V6, producing 290 horsepower. That's quite a lot for a 90s JDM coupe. Now then, even though the NSX is best known for its pop-up headlights, it only had them until 2002, as a facelift made it so that the NSX had traditional headlights. This was done to make the aging coupe's design look more modern. Another thing that is worth mentioning is the fact that the NSX was and still is offered as an Acura in America. After all, Acura is considered the luxury division of Honda, and by many, sports cars are categorized as luxury cars. Moving on, we have the second generation NSX. This is a car that is very different from its predecessor, beginning production 11 years after the first generation's discontinuation. The second gen NSX is also a sports coupe, but comes equipped with all-wheel drive as well as a hybrid powertrain. You may think that with the latter, a V6 is obsolete, but it isn't. In fact, the hybrid powertrain is an electric battery paired with a 3.5 litre JNC1 twin-turbo V6. This culminates in a power output of 573 horsepower, which is way more than the old NSX's amount of horsepower. This was a true sports coupe, and apparently it was supposed to have an even bigger engine while it was in development. In December 2007, Honda America's CEO at the time, Tetsuo Iwamura, confirmed that Honda's next sports car would be powered by a V10. A V10! That would have been mad, but sadly, it never happened. At least, we have the V6. With all that said, it's time to summarise. Overall, both generations of the NSX were really cool cars, and they definitely were exciting. Our last car for today is the Plymouth Prowler. This is a rather strange car with its retro look, inspired by classic hot rods. Produced from 1997 to 2002, this was one of Plymouth's final new cars before the brand was discontinued in 2001. In its final model year, the Prowler was sold as a Chrysler. During its 5-year-long lifetime, the Prowler only had one engine choice, that being the 3.5 litre Chrysler V6. This V6 engine originates from the Dodge Intrepid saloon and produced 216 horsepower. The Prowler is a very cool car, and even though many people may think it's weird, I quite like it. Now then, when it comes to the top speed, it can accelerate to 118 miles an hour at most. Not much, but that's because the top speed of the Prowler is unfortunately electronically limited. The Prowler's 0 to 60 time is okay on the other hand, with a time of 7.2 seconds. That essentially means that the Plymouth Prowler isn't a very exciting car with such a weak engine. Other factors include the odd and disorienting cockpit layout, as well as the fact that the Prowler is just uncomfortable to drive. I've never had the chance to drive it myself to confirm this, but just from looking at the car, you can already tell that something has gone horribly wrong here. As I said though, I still like the Prowler because of its sheer weirdness. I don't know, maybe the weirder a car is, the more likeable it is, who knows. Anyway, with all that said, the Prowler is a weird car that only really looks cool from its looks. Thank you for watching today's video. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, why not like and subscribe? By the way, thank you so much for 27,000 views on my latest video. I did not expect so many people to tune in and watch it. It appears as though @Ginkui Main was right. A Brazilian folks really did show up to watch that video. Once again, thank you. There will eventually be a part 2 to that video, so stay tuned for it. With all that said, this is Autofill. See you later.